Imagine leaving a brightly lit campground and stepping beyond the last circle of firelight into a prehistoric night. The trees disappear into darkness, something heavy moves nearby, and every sound could belong to a hunter. So how did prehistoric humans survive until morning, when every shadow could hide something stronger than they were? Not just by building fires, not just by carrying weapons, not just by hiding inside caves. The real answer may involve several imperfect defenses working together, while the darkness kept testing every weakness. The first mistake is imagining ancient humans standing above every predator. Picture a Homo habilis moving through Olduvai as daylight fades. We cannot know the exact moment, the animal's approach, or whether anyone escaped. But two fossils preserve something far less comfortable than heroic reconstruction. The specimens known as OH7 and OH65 carry carnivore damage. A 2025 analysis concluded that leopards most likely modified both fossils, with several model estimates exceeding 90%. That does not reconstruct a nighttime attack or identify precisely when the injuries occurred. It does show that early humans could enter the food chain as prey. Modern predators reveal why darkness may have shifted that balance. Researchers examined 450 African lion attacks involving 474 victims across Tanzania. Why did danger rise most sharply after the sun disappeared? Nearly 60% of those attacks occurred between 6 o'clock and 9:45 at night. The pattern does not turn Tanzania into a photograph of prehistory. It shows how a large cat can exploit darkness around vulnerable human movement. Moonlight complicates this because predators do not respond to it identically. Lions and spotted hyenas are both nocturnal, yet their activity changes differently under brighter nights. Leopards add another unsettling layer to the uncertainty. Camera research in Greater Kruger linked their timing to human foot traffic and lunar conditions. These are modern ecological comparisons, not direct records of Paleolithic camps. Predator behavior varies with species, visibility, human presence, landscape, and opportunity. So night was not a single enemy with one predictable schedule. Prehistoric humans faced moving risks that could adjust as quickly as they did. That danger explains why darkness mattered. It still does not explain what kept anyone alive until morning. Fire seems like the obvious answer waiting inside the darkness itself. A flame expands the visible world, gathers people close, and pushes darkness beyond its edge. Picture a small camp feeding branches into a hearth while unseen movement circles outside. From a modern campground, the conclusion feels almost automatic. Predators would stay away. But archaeology can verify burning without proving any particular defensive purpose. At Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa, researchers identified hominin-associated burning deep inside the cave. Researchers date stratum 11 to roughly 1.79 to 1.07 million years ago. The evidence indicates that burning recurred there over time. That is remarkable, but it is not a prehistoric security report. The burned remains do not record what prowled outside after sunset. They do not show flames arranged as a defensive ring. They also do not prove that predators consistently avoided the cave. Archaeology verifies the burning itself, not the protective outcome. Stronger evidence for controlled fire appears later at Gesher Benot Yaakov in Israel. Burned seeds, wood, and flint suggest hominins controlled fire nearly 790,000 years ago. Fire could offer light, warmth, cooking, activity, and a visible gathering point. Each benefit may have changed the risks around a camp. None reveals exactly how a particular predator responded on a particular night. Qesem Cave adds a more organized picture around 300,000 years ago. There, a central hearth shows repeated use cycles within a concentrated activity area. People returned to fire as part of daily life, not merely as an emergency reaction. Regular fire could reshape where people gathered and what they noticed. Still, a hearth alone was not a protective wall. Anyone who has watched a campfire shrink understands the practical weakness. Flames need fuel, smoke moves with air, and darkness begins immediately beyond the glow. Fire may have altered predator calculations without making prehistoric humans untouchable. That leaves a harder possibility. Perhaps the next defense was the group, not fire. A sleeping group is not necessarily a defenseless group after darkness settles. As one person sinks deeper, another shifts, listens, or briefly opens their eyes. Across hours, those small differences can overlap without deliberate coordination throughout the group. The camp may never become completely unaware at exactly the same moment. A 2017 study explored this possibility among 33 modern Hadza adults. Researchers recorded their sleep patterns continuously across 20 days and nights. So how often was every monitored adult scored asleep simultaneously? Across the entire observation period, it happened for only 18 minutes. That number sounds like organized guards, but it is not. Researchers did not document a formal schedule assigning anyone to remain awake. Different chronotypes placed natural periods of sleep and wakefulness at different times. During the night, a median of 8 adults were awake at any moment. In 99.8% of sampled moments, someone remained awake or lightly asleep. Here the evidence boundary becomes even more important than the number. The Hadza are living communities, not preserved examples of Paleolithic behavior. Their sleep patterns cannot prove ancient camps operated in exactly the same way. They cannot transform every restless sleeper into a prehistoric guard on duty. Still, the comparison reveals what sleeping beside other people can change after sunset. One isolated sleeper loses awareness whenever their sleep becomes sufficiently deep. Several sleepers with different rhythms may create fewer completely unobserved intervals. A cough, sudden movement, warning call, or waking child could spread attention rapidly. Prehistoric humans may not have needed permanent guards around every camp. Some groups may have gained vigilance simply because their sleep remained socially distributed. Fire changed what people could see, while companions changed who might notice danger. But even an alert group still needed somewhere secure enough to survive the darkness. A cave appears to solve the problem immediately. Stone walls reduce exposed directions, while a narrow entrance concentrates whatever approaches from the surrounding darkness. Picture sleepers gathered beyond the opening as wind and animal calls move outside. The darkness now has fewer paths inward. Yet caves were not private human shelters waiting to be claimed. Carnivores also used them for resting, feeding, denning, or scavenging. At El Mirón cave in northern Spain, sedimentary ancient DNA preserved traces of several carnivores across multiple archaeological layers. The repeated traces complicate the simple image of a permanently human-controlled refuge through time. Researchers argue that some animals may have entered to consume remains people left behind. Others may have occupied the cave during periods when humans were absent. The evidence does not show predators attacking sleeping people inside El Mirón on a particular night. It shows that access to shelter could shift between species over time. That distinction changes how camp placement should be understood. A cave could block wind, limit visibility from outside, and reduce some approach routes. It could also trap smoke, restrict escape, or attract animals already familiar with the location. Shelter reduced certain risks while creating others. Open camps carried a different calculation. A group might gain wider sightlines, but lose solid barriers behind them. Rock overhangs, trees, slopes, water, and existing animal paths could all affect exposure. Archaeology rarely preserves enough detail to reconstruct those nightly decisions with confidence. So shelter was not a fortress, and caves were not guaranteed safety. They were terrain that humans and carnivores could both evaluate carefully. When location failed to prevent an encounter, survival may have depended on what humans could do at close range. Wooden weapons changed the relationship between human bodies and approaching animals at close range. At Schöningen in Germany, complete hunting weapons survived remarkably intact where most wood disappears. Revised dating places the spear horizon near 200,000 years ago. The finds support planned cooperative hunting rather than accidental encounters with prey. The weapons reveal careful planning, woodworking skill, and preparation for dangerous close-range encounters. A wooden spear could extend human reach beyond teeth and bare hands during confrontation. Cooperative hunters could also concentrate force that one person lacked during an encounter. But none of this shows spears waiting beside sleepers after sunset. But could prehistoric humans sometimes reverse the relationship with a major predator? At Siegsdorf in Germany, the answer appears inside a cave lion's rib. The animal lived roughly 48,000 years ago during the late Pleistocene. One rib carries a puncture created around the time of death. The lesion matches damage expected from a wooden thrusting spear. Its path suggests the weapon entered the lion's chest from close range. Researchers interpret the injury as direct evidence of Neanderthal lion hunting. For once, the predator survives archaeologically as the hunted animal. That reversal matters because large carnivores were not untouchable forces of nature. Some human groups possessed weapons capable of killing a formidable competitor. Knowledge, coordination, and reach could shift an encounter rapidly. A predator approaching humans may therefore have faced genuine danger itself. Now comes the limit that prevents a dramatic scene from becoming false certainty. The Siegsdorf wound does not reveal darkness, sleeping people, or a defensive camp. Schöningen does not show spears positioned beside bedding for emergency protection. These finds establish capability, not a universal nighttime procedure. Weapons could have added another layer when fire, shelter, or vigilance failed. They did not need to guarantee victory to alter an animal's calculation. At some sites, humans had crossed from vulnerable prey into dangerous opposition. But no single weapon explained survival across every landscape, predator, and night. By this point, every single answer story has become too small to explain survival. Fire altered visibility, groups altered awareness, and shelters altered exposure around the camp. Weapons could change the cost of approaching human bodies at close range. Predator behavior determined when each advantage mattered across changing nighttime conditions. None of these layers needed to work perfectly on every night. A flame could fail while an alert sleeper noticed movement beyond the firelight. A cave could narrow access yet remain attractive to another carnivore. A spear could matter only after every quieter defense failed. Then, modern savanna research turns the relationship in a surprising direction. What happens when wild animals hear ordinary human voices instead of lions? Researchers tested responses across 4,238 independent playback trials. The results did not portray humans as harmless background noise. Wildlife was twice as likely to flee from human voices as lion sounds. Across the tested community, 95% of species showed a stronger response to humans in at least one measure. The experiment captures animals responding to modern people in a heavily human-shaped world. It nevertheless reveals that both predators and prey can respond strongly to human presence. But this is not a recording from a Pleistocene campsite. It cannot prove ancient lions, leopards, or hyenas reacted identically to prehistoric humans. It also cannot identify when fear of humans became widespread. The cautious conclusion is that wild animals can respond to humans as a serious danger cue. Prehistoric humans may have survived by overlapping light, vigilance, shelter, numbers, and weapons. No layer guaranteed safety, but each could reduce a different opening for attack. They did not conquer darkness. They repeatedly made themselves harder to kill. By morning, success would have looked almost invisible. No dramatic victory was required, only a camp still alive when the horizon brightened. Each defense bought something different: visibility, warning, time, distance, or resistance. Those small advantages could overlap without ever making the night safe. Those advantages would have varied across landscapes and populations. Fire weakened, sleepers drifted deeper, shelters attracted competitors, and weapons sometimes failed. Archaeology preserves scattered traces of capability, not complete nighttime routines. It cannot replay a particular camp from sunset until morning in detail. That uncertainty does not make every explanation equally likely. Across different sites and periods, some groups gathered around fire, occupied shelters, cooperated, and used effective hunting weapons. Modern comparisons show how group sleep and predator behavior can change exposure. Together, the evidence points toward flexible risk reduction rather than one fixed nighttime routine. Survival may have depended on lowering the combined risk far enough. No one defense needed to stop every predator. It only needed to create enough hesitation for another defense to matter. Prehistoric success was measured one sunrise at a time. Return to the campground where firelight ends against a wall of black trees. Who is measuring whom from beyond that wavering boundary? The people listen for predators while something moves beyond the glow. Outside, a predator may also evaluate flames, movement, voices, and potential human resistance. The night remained dangerous, but humans were not always the easiest prey inside it.